Hello and welcome. I'm gonna turn our guest off because he hasn't made it yet. All right, let's roll that show as look at that. As I speak, let me get his audio on and turn him back on. Welcome back to the show, and he's not there. Well, that's gonna happen, I suppose. So, how is everybody today? This show started out. There we go. I hear him again. No, and maybe.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome back.
Thank you.
We have Cult of the Lich in the chat, or in the game today as a guest. And as I was about to do, let's roll this board. Welcome to the Great Debate. All right. Is everybody hearing me all right? I'm trying something different with the mic so you won't be able to hear my computer running.
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. Awesome. I am working on, thanks to some wonderful people that watch me on a regular basis, I am about to order a new microphone boom for my desk. Hopefully that will help. So, that I should have in a week or two.
Yep, it definitely helps.
You know, there's always that slow build to the things you want to have. You don't want to run out there and drop a bunch of dough on shit and not do anything.
Yeah, that's true. Usually, well, video games are based around the concept. You got to work for it a little bit. Otherwise, you won't appreciate it when you get it.
Right. Well, I've been working for a bit. I went out and bought this really nice microphone. But I noticed no matter where I put it, I always seem to have some problems with it. And I've been looking in local stores for one of those little boon arms, and I can't seem to find one. But I found one online for only $18, and that is within what's in my PayPal account. So that will be ordered later today as soon as I find the color I like.
Cool.
So, how are you today? It's Monday.
Is it? It's like Tuesday here. Let's see.
Oh, that's
gotta
right.
remember, I'm
You're on
calling you
the
from
other
the future.
side. That's right. We are time traveling our conversation. And where, shall I ask, will this conversation begin today?
Let's do something fairly easy. Virtual reality.
Virtual reality. If you could walk through a VR world of Mars based on actual surface, would you? And what would it provide?
See, well, it says a VR world based on actual surface.
So
You
we
mean
can
just the
send
surface or the
probes.
environment?
We can send probes and take pictures and create a VR world around what we see. Okay? That's possible now. So the VR world would literally just be, you'd be able to see where you're going and move through the world. That our current VR technology, that's pretty much all you can do. So, would you want to, if that's all it was a representation, and what would it provide if you could?
Well, wouldn't that be like where they do the testing? I can't remember the name of it now, but before they actually send the rovers up, because that part of the Earth is so similar to Mars that they use it for all the testing.
Yeah,
Um, what is
it's Northern Europe somewhere. They just did one where they had 3 or 4 astronauts bundled up for like 9 or 10 months in that observatory to test out how well their interaction would be and working on
see
certain
if they go
experiments.
insane and start eating
Yeah,
each other? Yeah. But
there's
yeah,
there's a
I
lot to
don't know
worry
if it
about
would.
in space travel. There really is. But taking the travel part out and trying to say send some state of the art technology, drop it on some off world planet, drop it to the surface, and use a VR world that's created from what we gather from the surface to kind of explore. You'd be able to see like the texture of the plane around you or things that are there or seen. And granted, it would only be like 80 to 90% visual accuracy, taking pictures and converting them into a 3D world. But that would give you an idea, the ability to walk on the planet's surface without actually being on the planet, to look around and see where maybe water erosion lines would have been, or where solar winds might have hit, where something might have like a high radiation count. You could, maybe it discolored the soil and that area is marked on the VR or something. You know what I mean? Maybe take all the input we
Well,
have and
yeah, it
input it
would.
into a VR world.
Yeah, you'd probably be able to see things and interact with stuff in a way that just the probe wouldn't allow you to. So that way, you could probably pick up a lot more details. Maybe you notice something because there's nothing as advanced currently as the human eye to discerning all kinds of subtle details that maybe just looking at a flat picture wouldn't provide. And there's also a big difference. Like there's them pictures. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're like flat, and you see a 2D surface, and then they'll like move, and then it'll show a 3D surface, right? And they will be very different things.
Yeah.
So there, yeah, it could be that difference as well of just changing it from a 2D flat surface to a 3D environment. You might be able to uh just figure out places maybe to probe more. And that was the other thing I was going to ask you. Would the in your scenario here, would the VR be interactive with the robot on the other end? Because that could be very useful.
It could be, but that would again be difficult. We could talk about light, sound, and relay transmission of data. If something's 4 light years away, you're talking an 8 year communication loop. If that
Would
makes.
that be with the
See, what the
Yeah, I'm
rover
not
would
sure
be
because
able
you're
to
talking about
do.
radio wave speed.
Right, radio waves travel at the speed of light. And when you see, it's difficult because you can lightly discuss when you start to travel at the speed of light, your sound waves will travel at the same speed. So, trying to send a transmission when you're traveling at the speed of light in the direction you are traveling is impossible. Your transmission will stick with you at the speed of light until you reach the destination. We haven't currently found a way to communicate faster than that. So, let's say we landed a probe on Mars. I think it's a few hours communication time loop. So when I
Oh
say
yeah.
loop, that's from when we release our transmission. They receive it and they respond with theirs, and we receive theirs. That loop is several hours.
Yep.
So to answer
But
a
it'd
question
be very
takes time.
delayed, but it would be slow. Yeah. Be very and then the rendering of the VR itself, you'd need some kind of auto rendering system um, for like new objects, and I don't think anything like that's been created yet. But we're talking about a hypothetical here. So let's say that it's a, I don't know, 4 hour delay. I'm guessing. I can't remember the exact time. It's like 3 hours or something.
Yeah, I want to say
But
one-way transmission is like 3 hours and something to Mars. It's just shy of an hour to the moon. Isn't it like 30, 32 or 38 minutes to the moon?
yeah, no, it was 4 minutes. I thought.
Is it 4 minutes? I can't open any more web pages right now. So,
Well, whatever it is. Okay, let's say we could do that, and it's got a several hour delay. Right. So the bot's probably going to have a certain amount of AI to run on its own, pick up a rock, investigate it, or whatever. But you could be actively watching this, And if you see something interesting, you could override it and make it do something outside of its normal AI procedure. So that would be useful. But that would be
If
a
you
lot
just
of money for nothing.
if you had that world though, what would be I could think of, to me, with my knowledge and my curiosity, what a VR world replicated for Mars. Let's say NASA sent like 3 rovers, and the rovers did nothing but sit there and roam around the planet in their algorithm, taking pictures of everything and whatnot, sending it all back. That data just continues to build this VR world, and you get to walk through the VR world. Now, one of the intricate things that they're looking at on Mars is the water depositions, or that's the wrong word. I think that's the
Yeah,
wrong word.
that's gonna
The
say
layers
probably the
that have
poles would be my interest position.
right. Even if you couldn't do much interacting, the fact that you could walk through in seemingly your own real time, walking on the surface, looking at the texture, the lines, the grain, the sediment, just visually would would be kind of cool to start with.
Oh
What
yeah.
would it provide? You'd be able to make more conclusions about the history of the planet even without having the actual sediment.
Well, yeah, you'd be able to actually observe it with the finer details of your eye that, like I said, a 3D image will give you that a 2D one just won't. And yeah, you'd be able to just look at the wear patterns of rocks and the erosions, and because there's all kinds of stuff that as a flat image they see, and I can't remember the term now, but it was like the what was it, the pyramids of Mars or whatever. Whenever they actually enhanced the image, it vanished because it was just a figment. It was an optical illusion
Right.
from it being two dimensional.
And
Oh, okay.
when you start to put in a lot more information like you would need for a VR world, you start to lean away from the possibility of seeing a half sand covered face on the surface of the moon and
That
sending
was
somebody
it.
to
Yeah.
investigate. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, you don't want to need a lot of that. I mean, it's
Oh,
nice to, like, what do you want to call it? Nice to like imagine, right? Maybe someone on the moon, a face on the moon, or whatever. But actual scientific inquiry, it makes it useless.
yeah.
Um,
I put this one in there because I actually have one of those cheesy VR headsets that you put your phone in, but I have a phone that's capable of some decent VR interactiveness. So I got the moon one, and I can walk around a little bit. Like, you can look in directions and see certain things, look up and see Earth, and things actually move in there. It's really cool, but it doesn't allow me to move through the moon to look at the different aspects or the craters or anything, which I think would be awesome. But again, you apply that to, let's say, something else. Like, I haven't seen one for Mars yet. That would be cool to walk around on the actual um, representation of the planet's surface, not just, hey, this cool video game thinks Mars looks something like this based on the picture. So no, I want to walk around and look, how big are the rocks? What are they shaped like? Are there sedimentary lines in the soil? Is the dust blowing?
yeah,
You know.
that's another thing. How does the dust blow? Yeah, like I said, the erosion patterns.
All
Um,
right, let's move on because certainly an interesting topic. Definitely will get me going on other things.
okay, let's go politics.
Politics. Moving right over to those hot topics. Should felons who have completed their sentences be granted rights to vote again?
I can't even answer this based off the premises to start with. If you're a felon, you should be executed, and if it's not something worth executing someone over, they shouldn't be arrested.
I like
That's
that
my stance on it.
analogy. So, a couple people know this, but I do have a felony record. So when the question of certain debates comes up and they go, "What about people with felonies?" My my metaphoric ears pop up, and I'm all in that conversation. What about felons? Because I'm a non-violent, served a short sentence, did my
Then you
time.
shouldn't have been arrested.
Right. I didn't. I got drug charges. It's not that big a deal to
Drugs,
me
yeah, yeah,
now.
yeah.
It's it's a pain in my butt though for what it has done to my life now that I don't do what I did to have gotten in trouble. So, to put it that way, don't get a felony record. But
Oh
some
yeah.
states, including Florida, apparently, and granted, I sometimes have to look for these topics, so I end up reading reports or something, a couple of articles, and going, this one sounds like something good to ask. Apparently, in Florida, there's 1.5 million residents who have some sort of uh, conviction. And I want to say it's felonies, but I'm not 100% certain on their law because I didn't stop to look up the law. I do a lot on the back end over here. But 1.5 million people who are no longer allowed to have their right to vote in the state. So I did a couple of quick searches. There's a little over 20 million people living there. About 15 million people are of voting age, minus another 1.5 who can't vote because they have convictions. Now
So
let's say,
1 in 10 people.
right. So you're basically, the state has found a way to eliminate voters, legal registered voters. Now, in states I've been in, my felony record does not necessarily prohibit me from voting. However, it prohibits me from many other things.
Yeah.
So I still vote. And I when I got off of my parole term, the question I asked when I signed my release papers was, I get my right to vote back now, right?
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, how far down this rabbit hole you want to go with the question? I mean, pure pragmatism. The reality is, on mass, I would say no, and that might make you mad, but I have legitimate reasons. First of all, you should lose any so-called felony for drug charges. Like I said, well, back to like I said, you either should be executed for it or not been arrested to begin with. Um, yeah, the drug charges are not something that should preclude you from voting. But then you have the reality of the whole point of voting is to get a consensus of what the majority believe. So that way you don't have to revote, murder the leaders, and then create what you believe. So I don't know. That's kind of a fine edge there.
It's a really
Um,
hard topic. I did pull this one from the site. My resources, I think, are right behind it when I click it again. It's it kind of hits close to home, which doesn't hurt me. Your statement saying that in all practicality, people with a felony shouldn't be able to vote, that doesn't hurt me. I've come to the understanding that you do something wrong, you own up to it, you serve your time, and you move on and be better. I have a family, I have a life, I bought a house, I got almost everything in my life cleared up into a good point more than a decade later, but it still haunts you. As for voting, it just seems like one of those things where, as somebody who's convicted of something, the laws you may feel need to be changed for the positive in somebody's view. Okay, so in my point, I should say that it was a low level drug crime, it was a sale. Should I have gone for a felony? No. So, being able to vote, if somebody comes up and says they want to repeal drug laws or reduce drug laws, I can vote because I agree. I did serve my time. I did what I was supposed to as mandated by the crime that I did. I should then be able to receive some of my rights back, including, because I'm a nonviolent felon, I can also pay a large sum of money, fill out a crap load of paperwork, get a certificate of release from the state that I was sentenced in, and be able to buy a firearm because I have a nonviolent felony. Not all states are like that. So there's rules, there's things there for felons who are willing to
Well,
do better with their life, which I appreciate. But then there is the argument that it shouldn't be there. You screw up, you're done.
I don't agree with that at all. That whole concept is flawed, provenly. Like, oh well, you know, you do the crime, you do the time, blah blah blah. But the reason why they restrict voting for some felons, and the key word there is some felons, someone non-violent of a crime shouldn't be refused to vote. It's people, I mean, people could vote rape legal, and in some countries they have, because they have such prevalent rape gangs that, you know, it's not a situation for something violent, because yeah, they're always going to vote to make it legal, because you know, a certain amount of these like more severe and extreme illegal things are like mental disorders. A lot of it comes from that. So always, there is no cure for someone that's a mass murderer, right?
Right.
um
Now, I'm not saying. Here's the defense, though. A mass murderer went to the same prison I did to go through the system. So, regardless of what crime you commit at the level you commit a felony, you end up going through the system with people at all of those levels. So, it doesn't matter to the system what crime you've committed for most aspects. Certain
yeah,
states,
that's a big part of it
it
itself,
doesn't
is the
matter if I was released after serving 30 years and 10 on parole, and hey, look, I'm all done with the time I served for killing somebody, but I can now vote again because that's the state law, equal to me. The problem is, and I don't know if it's necessarily a problem, I being a felon, this is a hard thing. I pull on both sides of the line. I believe the laws should be a little looser, but I also believe that if you do a crime, you should serve your time and, you know, deal with the repercussions of the shit that you did, because 9 times out of 10 you knew what you were doing was wrong. How do you
yeah.
you can't balance
Well,
this
here's the
out.
thing, right? This is kind of like the immigration problem. Well, all politics problems boils down to this, right? Before Trump got elected, you had, what was it, 10 million illegals crossing, or a million or whatever it was, crossing the country illegally every day. Trump gets elected, off the platform that we will build the wall, right? The amount of people crossing the country illegally dropped by 60%, 60%, right? Um, and then another 10% dropped whenever they started picking up and shipping them back. ICE was. So that means there's a 70% of the population that will do something because they can get away with it.
Oh,
And that's
absolutely.
kind of standard across the board, right?
I
That's
I
where
sold drugs
most,
because I could get away with it until I didn't get away with it anymore. At which point they came after me months after I quit selling, months after I cared. But one of those, you
yeah.
know. Okay. The Surge, welcome. I will
Hello.
absolutely give you a wrench. They're going to start thinning here soon. I'm slowly reaching my 200 subscriber goal, and then wrenches will go to guests only to incite more guests. The website that I pulled that topic from, although it, as most people have to know, when you go looking for topics, a lot of sites list the same things, just worded differently in different orders. I try to cite my sources when I do use sources. Mind you, I don't always use sources. I sometimes just go, hey, you know what sounds fun to talk about? Bullshit. All right, back at the board
Yeah.
here. Let's look up at the chat. Say hello to everybody in here. We got Reaper and Saki and Rajin and the Malevolent Rider and a new Surge. No. We're not doing a wrench purge. The first couple hundred people to my channel get wrenches to show long-term subscribership. And then people who are on the show will get wrenches.
So
no
back
purge.
to that incentives.
Yeah, it's incentives. I want to incentivize you guys to come on the show and air your opinions and views on the topics that I come up with. We had some good ones up here. Let me scroll up. Other than the fact that there's no cussing week, I avoided my felony record. Oh crap! What just happened? I just lost it. I'm all the way back at the top now. So much chat here. I love it. I avoided my felony record since I was a minor when I did the crime. In the adult, they arrested me. I got dumb for illegal bone gaming. I guess in some areas, the way I do the bones in this chat would be illegal because I do reward bones for money. So, there's that.
Yeah.
So in some areas, that would be illegal gambling.
Yep. I've never been arrested in a country I reside in.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, which means I have been arrested in some countries I don't live in. Oh.
All right. Here we are back at the board. Today seems to be going good. These are good conversational items. I always feel good when things are worth talking about that are on the board. So.
Okay, government.
Government it is. Loosening restrictions to who can run and limiting the terms they can serve will force representatives to work hard and focus on their goals at the price of confusion.
Let me see. Think about that last part there.
So, if you have to recycle out representatives at a regular rate, eventually they're going to start stuff that has to be finished or gets left up in the air, or voters are going to be waiting to see what happened with something that somebody was trying to push through and nothing does because the next representative comes in and they're not on that same task. So there'll be a little bit of confusion in between having to recycle them out so often. You'll have fewer lingering people knowing what they're doing, to teach other people to make sure that structure is set up and followed by, but you'll have fresher thought and maybe fewer laws going through unless they're laws that people really want. So there'd be pros and cons to restricting and opening up ability and I said that wrong. There would be pros and cons to allowing more people to be able to run, however, not allowing them to serve for as long.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, it's true, but so representatives, you mean like Congress, right?
Yeah, well, Congress, the House, I don't think there's limits on either of them yet, and they can serve 20, 30, what is it, every 2 or 4 years? Yeah.
Yeah, well, see, yeah, that's the thing though, right? Because Congress, if they leave, the next person probably is not going to pick up whatever they were working on, right? Whatever they were working on be just dead in the water. And because NASA does that, right? NASA's got pretty short actual employment. They move the technicians around quite a bit because a short supply of very good technicians, so they move them from site to site. But they have a overarching infrastructure, a governance in place to say, okay, well, we hire this new guy in and tell him what was getting worked on. When you're Congress or a representative, that doesn't happen. And so what you're going to wind up with is people that only focus, which we have a bad problem with already, people only completely focused on short-term goals. That's why a lot of stuff in NASA winds up getting scrapped after a couple years because that's dependent on the president who has only a 4-year term and maybe 8 years. But a lot of that stuff could take like 20 years to build something. So they scrap the project and they come in and muddle it up, and someone else comes in, except for Congress would then be like doing it to themselves. They'd be like, well, if I can't get it done within my term limit, then I'm not going to do it. I'm going to get done what I can, which they already have to get revoted in every 4 years, right? So they focus on 4-year goals and that's it, and nothing substantial ever gets done. That's why they passed 5,000 laws, and they all almost say the same exact things. So I would say restricting the term limit to a realistic, goal of maybe 10 years, but then only having them vote them in once, right? If you're voting them in, you're voting them in once. None of this revote thing. You vote them in for 10 years, and then that's it. You vote in someone else. None of this swamp stuff either. That would
Right.
stop both that, but it also fixed the short term psychological effects. Um,
So what you're saying is lengthen the term, restrict it to one servable term, and give them the ability to push the objectives that they're trying to push for their districts.
yeah, that's what they do. In corporations, right? In corporations, you can only serve one term per 10 years in a corporation, and then you have to rotate uh, your term out. So what happens is within 10 years, you wind up usually with 3 people just for security, and each person has 4 years. But you can't do that whenever, you can do that when you own the thing and you three decide what you're going to run. But when you're talking about something like Congress, where it's just you, the other way is whenever you're pretty much sole proprietor, you run the thing for the decade and then you hire in someone new after 9.5 years.
Yeah. That sound. I don't know about the 10 year. I don't know. 8 years is awful long for a president. Look how much Obama got to screw up after 8 years.
Yeah, but he's president, right? A president can get a lot more done quickly than Congress usually,
Yeah,
right? Because
usually.
it takes them 2
Usually.
years to write a fucking bill, and then it takes them another 3 years to rewrite the thing because they screwed up the first writing. That took 2 years. So,
All right, let's rotate back to this board. Rotate.
reminds
We're
me of
gonna
that
keep saying rotate because Saki seems to like that word today.
rotate.
Rotate. All the
Okay, let's
rage.
see. Sex.
Sex. Ah, Reaper. Reaper. Your topic has been chosen. How often do men and women think about sex?
Men has been estimated to think about sex once every 6 seconds.
That study has been unprovable. It is just a saying. I had the
Well, it's
website
a
open on Friday thinking that this topic was going to get chosen Friday. But I did a little research and I have several of these lined up for the next few shows because it's the fastest moving topic. So when I come up with a few, I write them all down. So I do have a list growing. Um, there was a study that I was reading, and I can't quote it because I don't have it today. About they tested 18 to 25-year-old college students. I forget what the test. I think it was 1,000 college students. They gave them all clickers and asked different ones to explain how often they thought about food, sleep, and sex throughout the day. And I want to say the averages were like 18 point something for men and 9 point something for women. and the range was from 1 to 388 times a day for a man and from 1 to 140 times a day for a woman. What they were able to find from this low scale study was that men predominantly thought about sex roughly 2 times more than women on average. However, there were men that thought about sex less than the average woman. So it was done on averages. They took the high and the low number for everybody. The highest high was the high number, the lowest low was the low number. They took everybody's numbers and made an average. The test was done for, I want to say, 7 days. It wasn't a reliable test. It was just
like
a quick study.
It sounds like if they were using the extremes, that would definitely not be the way to go about doing most proper statistics. So I don't know what statistic model they were using. I know there's like 3 different ways, but the standard is you throw out the extremes and then you average everything else. And then
Right.
you do that on both sides.
And that's
Right.
where
And
they
that'll
came
give
up
you your
with
best
the
mean.
9 and 18 on average per day per person.
Yeah, okay.
That was the total overall average for men versus women. That's not to say that doesn't give a lot of room for interpretation because the data was so small and the study was so limited.
Yeah, that's another thing. Well, 2 things that you have to watch when you're talking about that is one, sample size. A lot of studies they come out with says, "Hey, look, we've shown such and such," and their sample size wasn't large enough
Like
to
4,000 people.
say what they're trying.
Yeah, this was a college student base, 18 to 25. I want to say it was only a couple thousand people involved. It was a small research study done at a college, and maybe you'd be able to tell me what it is, but they added in other factors so that people didn't know exactly what they were counting for. There was 3 factors people were given to account for. Each person was only accounting for 1 factor at a time: food, sleep, and sex.
Okay. Um,
Interesting. This came
but yeah,
from psychologytoday.com
today.
article from December of 2011.
That's good to know. I haven't kept up on my sex in a while. You know,
I,
no.
I was just working on studying last night.
Yeah. The Anyway, so
Anyway, that was a. What are we going to talk about next?
trying to read here. Why did the board get so small?
Did it get small on my end? It
Like,
looks the same on my end.
oh, that's weird. Kind of smaller than it was.
That's why I only show you the board and not the whole screen.
The internet.
The internet is a wonderful place. As the internet begins to connect to everything, including the front door, how will people who wish to remain anonymous? Damn, that's missing a word. No, it's not. I just read it wrong. As the internet begins to connect to everything, including the front door, how will people who wish to remain anonymous?
Probably the way that I am now. I mean, you have multiple identities online, right? And the one that you use for your personal stuff has no connection with any kind of conversation or anything like that.
Right.
Would be the only wise thing you can do because people just you say something and someone wants to murder you because whatever, and it's ludicrous. So that's the only way you can do that is hide yourself. whenever you're actually wanting to say something or communicate with someone. This whole Facebook thing is scary as hell.
Yes.
You know, like people giving, here's my face, my address, my phone number, my friends, my family. Here's everybody. Here's my whole life, and any
There's
stranger can roll through your profile.
there's a part of Facebook that scares the living hell out of me. So, to anybody in the chat, yes, I do have a Facebook profile. Please, if you like my work, follow me. However, even with all the locations and geo settings and everything on Facebook turned off, when it connects to my home router, it knows where I am. That's why I don't often post on Facebook. It will never post my location. However, it does find people in my area and keep recommending them as friends. And I refuse to friend people in my area for the reason that once I start, anybody I know that I friend on that profile will link to their friends and more people that would know who I am. And that will make Facebook track down my personal account and link the two together and lock me out of one.
And if you think it's scary, do not watch the information about Trapwire.
Oh, I don't want to even get into how easy it is to inadvertently, for your computer or your social media, to inadvertently give out your personal information. Something stupid small that might not seem like a lot, but you go to enough sites, it could give somebody everything they need about you.
Yep.
Instagram, Snapchat, they record your location when you take pictures. If you have an iPhone, it records the date, time, and location. If you upload an iPhone picture and somebody downloads it to an iPhone and opens it in the map application, it will tell them where you took the picture. Don't upload
Yeah,
pictures
well,
from your iPhone.
yeah, to also tell them any other devices you've logged into that any of them profiles with. So the
Apologies,
only
sorry
way to
about that.
keep your no problem. The only way to keep yourself somewhat safe is have a fake identity with all fake information onto a dedicated machine that does not link with everything anything else running through a VPN and using always HTTPS, uh, and then never clicking any kind of freaking links someone posts you because about a third of the time them damn things are phishing links,
And don't
even
open
if they don't pick
emails.
up any. You know.
Never,
So
ever,
yeah,
ever
it's
open your
dangerous.
emails.
Yeah, I don't anyway.
It's
Oh.
it's very difficult sometimes to determine. Things are smart. Computers, hackers, people that are fishing for your information are very, very smart. Uh, it is a Kickstart hydrating boost pineapple orange mango soda. It's good. Um,
You started roboting all of a sudden.
am
Can you
I
hear me
roboting or
okay?
are you hearing my chair crack?
Yeah, you're roboting.
I am roboting. Let me see if I have any extra tabs open.
Could be my connection. I don't know.
I will kill
I'm not
my
gonna
watch page tab and that tab.
there we go.
I don't. Everything seems good on my end, but I lost him. Hey, chat, how y'all doing? I got no guest. He'll be back. We all have a folder at the NSA. Um, NSA,
So,
CIA, FBI. They probably all have a folder on me.
well, you're talking to me, so I know that they now have a voter on you.
Oh, okay. They probably had one before. If anybody, no, I probably haven't mentioned it, but my felony was a sealed indictment before they picked me up. So I'm sure there's a folder on me in a lot of places.
No.
All right, let's move on. We can get one or two more of these out of here. What happened to my show? Something's wrong.
Yeah, and you're still sounding kind of like a robot, and I'm not sure if it's me or you.
I also am not sure. I don't know what happened there. My computer is messing with me. Seriously messing with me. It's a Monday. That's the only explanation I have for that.
Well, just another Monday.
Monday,
Uh,
Monday.
don't worry, I'm sure it's the CIA uploading Vault 9 onto your computer without you knowing it, hiding itself as a Windows update that doesn't even tell you that it's updating until you go to system tools and actually look for
Oh.
the updater.
Yeah, my computer does that to me once in a while. I have everything set so it won't do anything without permission at this point. So then there's that permission wall that pops up and then doesn't show me where it is when I'm looking for it. All
Yep.
right. We need something to talk about. There's something here to talk about. I just don't know what. How about you tell me what we should
See,
talk about?
technology.
Technology. That's a wonderful thing. There was another private rocket launched to release a satellite. Are we entering into a new commercial space age?
God, I hope so. That's all I have to say about that. God, I sure as hell hope so.
Well, we now
I
have a
was
car
actually
floating in
talking.
space.
I was actually talking to Gary Edwards about economics, right? And he was talking about a concept of basing economics around energy usage, uh, and how these two tie. I'll get to that, but um his concept is each item has a certain amount of energy it has to use to either manufacture, produce, or whatever. And the way economics is going, right, it's set up right now, it's based off of scarcity, right? It's based off of we don't have much of this thing, so it has a high value, or we have a lot of this thing, so it has a low value. So I'm like, okay, well, that's an interesting idea. And then I showed him this, what was it, 10 quadrillion, estimated value of $10 quadrillion asteroid that the NASA satellite is supposed to be visiting, have been visiting here soon. So what do we do whenever, it's not just visiting this asteroid, but harvesting it or mining it or whatever you want to call it, right? When your entire global economic system is based off of not enough, and you're talking about resources beyond humans' ability to even comprehend it in outer space, your whole system goes out the door.
There is a lot of belief because obviously we have a periodic table. Some scientists believe we haven't found everything yet, but there is a belief that on stray passing asteroids we could find, elements or deposits of things that we could find useful. And I honestly think that would be awesome. It would seriously add, I think this is kind of what you were saying, would seriously add a financial turmoil to the planet when.
Oh yeah, that's what the article said. It said because the whole world's economy is, what was it, $70 trillion, the economy of the entire planet, and you're talking about just one rock and the asteroid belt just beyond Mars, and we're talking about visiting Mars, right? Just beyond Mars, there's this massive belt of hundreds of thousands of rocks, and just one of these rocks is 10 times the value of the entire globe's economy.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. It would it would be cool to the industrious companies that could get out there and get the money. They'd be like, oh, cool, we're damn near printing our own cash. But to anybody else who doesn't have access to that ability, their cash becomes less and less worthless, and what they earn becomes less, well, not less worthless. It becomes worth less the more finances get flooded into the market. So it would only help those who would be printing the money, those who would be selling that product, basically printing the money from that product.
Well, yeah, it'd be like a space aristocracy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Um, that's why the UN has a actual global treaty about space that you can't own parts of space. But they're even talking about changing that because the way it's set up, it gives no incentives except for maybe tourism or exploration, scientific discovery. But other than that, it gives no incentive to go out into space because you can't sell the rock that you're landing on.
Yes, the
And yeah,
governments own it.
yeah,
That is an
well,
interesting.
it's communist is the way it's set up. It's common usage,
Did you
right? You can
know if
land
you
on it,
have an
but
unauthorized moon rock, the FBI, I wanted, I could be misstating this. There was a seizure done like 8 or 10 years ago. Some people who worked at NASA ended up taking small parts of moon rocks, and only the ones that were sold by the government with the certifications are legally obtainable by citizens. So if you have a moon rock and it matches one that's been missing, they're looking for you. Apparently, they're still missing 100 pounds or something like that of moon rock.
yep,
Yeah, it's a
yeah, they're missing
government
100 pounds of it.
property.
Well, that's the thing, though, is according to the way the treaty was signed and written up, I don't even think the U.S. government can have right to ownership to them rocks. That's um, you have to get into the fine print of that again. It's been like a decade because I'd read the whole treaty because I was just interested in why the hell no one really goes into space. We have a problem of it's kind of a dead duck, right? People go into outer space with like occasionally probes because of you know e- essentially pressure from enthusiasts to keep NASA going. But other than that, there's no real incentive. Even though, like, that one rock alone was worth 10 times the freaking value of all money on Earth. Um, and that's what it come down to. It's set up like a communist thing to where you're not allowed to sell uh material. You're not allowed to ship it or import it to Earth. All kinds of like common usage type things attached to all of space.
Yeah.
So you'll see things like people buying chunks of moons or buying stars. It's not legal. It never hold up in a court. Um, you can have your name, a star named.
Are we
That
talking
one's
about the
legal, but the rest not.
19? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. It's the second time. What? Or no, it's not. Maybe I'm just looking at too many screens. What sci fi show or movie was the Mars rocket from? Wasn't that from the movie that they looked at in Mystery Science Theater 3000 with the guy with the black mustache and the fake laser beams and shit? That was the original Rocket to Mars movie from like 1940 something. It was just
Uh,
when color TV or 30 something. It was when color TV came out and they were
yeah, it
watching it
sounds
on Mystery
familiar,
Science
but I
Theater
don't
3000.
remember it. Can
Everyone
you hear me?
wants to know. I can hear you great.
Okay,
Oh.
because for some reason you still sound like a robot.
My
Um,
audio goes up and down, and honestly, I think my computer is due for a refresh. Go through and clean out the temp folders and get rid of some files and programs I'm not using. Because I download shit, try it out, and then leave it there and it just gets in the way. It's probably
Yeah.
what it is. Also, you're hearing like every other noise in my background, my chair creaking, my desk rattling.
No, no, it's like
Is it crackling out on
yes.
you?
Well, it sounds like VoIP whenever you're downloading something simultaneously. That's what it sounds. It's like the packets are colliding at least 60% of the time, so it's garbled.
I'm betting
Um,
that my viewers aren't going to see it and I'm probably not going to see it. You're probably seeing it cuz it's on the outbound on all the crap on. There's a lot I'm running. I'm trying to simplify it out slowly. I took the debate
okay.
screen down. We're 2 minutes to the end of the show, Ryder. This is the time when we just chit chat and talk to the guest for a minute. Make sure that he gets his links in the chat if he has any, for him to gather some new friends to follow him. I guess people tell me I should be doing this. It's not really my thing to show myself. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, why would you be here? But if you're not already subscribed, hit that button before the show ends. See a cool little GIF I created. If you haven't already hit that thumb up button, do that for me. Apparently, it looks good to YouTube, though I can't see how or where. And there's a bell over there on the side, which one day I'm going to go into explaining how YouTube has the settings so that you have to find a secret menu to make sure that you receive all alerts and not just some.
Yeah, you're gonna have to explain that one for me as well, because I have that problem where I receive certain notifications and then other ones are turned off. So,
You have to go to your subscriptions page. So you got to dig through your YouTube account and find your subscriptions page. Once you get into that one, there's one that allows you to change the notification settings of your subscriptions. And then it will open up a really long list of all your subscriptions. And you have to go through and click one of the three tabs you want them on. One of them is all notifications, one of them is occasional notifications, and one is no notifications.
okay.
It's really weird. I found the menu once. I tried to go back into it to finish adjusting it because apparently when you do it on your phone, it only updates the last 5. So I don't know if YouTube has it set that you're only allowed to have so many on receive all notifications and then the rest get put on occasional, or what the breakdown is there. It was so hard to get to the menu. I restarted my computer, went to get back, and I couldn't figure out where I got into it. So I ought to do something with that and do a video or a stream or something. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a definite little YouTube quirk. I want to say that there's a limit on how many people you can receive all notifications from. I could be wrong, but on my
I
phone when I
mean,
tried to do it, it kept resetting the list every time I changed a certain number of them to all notifications.
well, you got to remember, I mean, YouTube's a small company. It only has a billion, viewers. So,
If they could do a little growing, maybe they could give us some cool features that work for those of us who actually use them and not for people who just don't want to see our content.
yeah. Well, the thing is they've got this complicated AI that's like a bee, can't get the dang thing to work. And the whole point of it is trying to optimize the amount of interest you have in something. They have all these cookies that track everything you have ever shown a slight hesitation of interest in, and they present that to you, and similar things, and the whole dang thing doesn't work worth the crap. But they're so focused on that they don't focus on basic things that users actually do care about,
Right, like
like
how to figure out
getting your
where our subscriptions
notifications.
are.
Yeah, exactly. So, like anything, a company always gets too big, and then they start getting drifting further and further away from their own customer base, and then usually they collapse to some smaller company that actually is in the know, as they say, that knows what the trends of the customers are and are going to fill that need quickly. BitChute is pretty dang good at that, actually.
There is
I've had
one thing I
communication
don't
with
like
them.
about BitChute, and it's stupid
Oh,
that
what's
I
that?
don't like it, but I don't do as many videos as I used to. And in order for BitChute to take my work over to BitChute from YouTube, it has to be an uploaded video. Processing from live streams doesn't count as uploading, so BitChute hasn't pulled any of my live streams over.
Yeah. Um, what you use OBS, right?
Yeah, among other things. I've got Streamlabs OBS, OBS XSplit, and one other one that I don't use.
Yeah, I've been thinking about trying to XSplit because my 86X does not work with OBS. They're just not up to date enough yet. But anyway, I was just asking because I believe OBS you can um have your stream export to your desktop as a video.
Yes, you can record at the same time as you're streaming, but be mindful of that because of how it does it. So make sure you're moving videos around and replacing them and checking them and everything. I honestly, it causes too much hassle because then you're writing and streaming. It takes a little more processing power. Also, you don't always go back to look at it. If I'm not going to post it as public, all I really need to do is go into BitChute and have it collect those videos. I forget how to do it, but there is a way to get it to see your streams, but you have to do it one at a time.
Yeah.
You do it as like a regular upload from YouTube one at a time to bring them over, and it takes a little bit of time considering all my streams are at least an hour. So, with that, did you have fun today?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Always.
This is seemingly entertaining only because you really don't know what the question's going to be. You don't know how you're going to defend or react. It's a little bit of curiosity and wonder keeps bringing people back. Apparently,
Yep.
hopefully that worked. Maybe Smart Astronaut can tell me because it looks like he just jumped in my Discord. Apparently, when you type something after the link, you get rid of the invisible character that YouTube adds. So I'm going to have to start doing that more often. I'm assuming
Okay.
that worked. Clear cause gets rid of the poison. All right. So with that, thank you everybody for joining us on the show today. I appreciate it. Make sure you share this show for others to see and join me again tomorrow. For those who were wondering, on my Twitter, I'm trying to put up a schedule for who will be on what days and times to make it clearer. If you want to hit me up, I'll add your name to a date and time and try to make a schedule thing start happening here. Thanks so much for joining me today, Cult of the Lich.
Yep. Good to have. Good to be here.
With that, we're going to find some royalty free music to kick our way out.